Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday over the national airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250-plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Lots of stuff to get into today. But let me start off on a negative note because my Yankees lost again. They lost the first two games of this series to the Oakland A's. It's not about worrying about what they're going to do in the regular season. It's not about worrying about whether or not they're going to win American League East. Expect from this team. Bad enough Sabathia has been in and out in terms of his health. This season. The reality of the situation is that when you look at the New York Yankees, this dude, J.A. Happ, I'm just not sold. Four innings, 5 earned runs, a 10-8 record. The dude's got an ERA over 4 career-wise. It's a bust. It balloons to 5.5 come the postseason. Only started 3 times, 1 and 2. Other than that, he's usually not in that rotation. But the bottom line is that he ain't the most impressive dude in the postseason. I'm not sold on J.A. Happ. I've never been sold on J.A. Happ. Never. And see, this is the kind of thing that just drives me crazy. Because when I look at the Houston Astros, I mean, my God. You got Jericho, you got Verlander. You sit up there and you look at them and you look at their staff and you say, my goodness, how's anybody going to beat them? Looking at the paper here today, Thursday's edition of the New York Post. Home run, his 13th of the year, and we're supposed to be all excited. Ladies and gentlemen, in 21 games since he's been back, he's hit 148, 12 for 81, with a homer, 4 RBIs. It is a mistake for people to walk around here believing that the New York Yankees are going to make some noise. The Bronx Bombers are going to make some noise. That doesn't happen against great pitching. It does not happen against great pitching. Not in the postseason. No, stop laughing at me. I'm not exaggerating. This is serious, serious stuff. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it's been 2009. The Yankees ain't won a damn World Series. This is the Yankees. This ain't the Phillies. Ain't the Tampa Bay Rays. Hell, it ain't even the Dodgers. Can't win a World Series since 1988. Ain't even the Dodgers. This is the New York Yankees. 27 World Series. We're accustomed to greatness. The Boston Red Sox have won more. The Chicago Cubs have won as many World Series titles as the New York Yankees this millennium, and they were cursed. How the hell you overcome a curse and win just as much, if not more, championships than the most storied franchise in sports annals? I'm Brian Cashman. Mr. We're going to stand pat. No need to panic. We're absolutely fine. We don't need anybody in our rotation. How does that happen? J.A. Happ. I mean, please. Please. I mean, he's not a scrub. He's not horrendous. But does he tickle your fancy? He doesn't tickle mine. Where is Michael K. when I need him? Please hurry up back to the radio airways, even though my man Don Juan LaGreca can handle this because he's a hell of a radio host. But I don't trust Don. Mr. Met. I can't listen to him. Assuage my concerns when it comes to the New York Yankees. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about Yankee fans. I can't do that. I'm trying to keep my cool. Trying to give the Yankees a chance. Trying to find any old which way I can come up with to justify what the hell is going on. And I got to tell you something right now. I'm getting very, very worried. Because I'm looking at them and I'm saying, hey, this ain't going to cut it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not interested in seeing the Yankees go to the postseason and lose again. Although I will acknowledge a couple of years ago when they lost to the Astros in 7 games, that was a spectacular baseball series to watch. It took 7 to take the Yankees out, but that was something special. I have to admit that. I truly, truly do. I really, really do. So I won't front in that regard. But I'm just looking at Verlander and Jarrett Cole with ERAs under 3. And I'm like, damn it. Yankees don't have a chance against these brothers. Then they got Greinke, too. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Yankees, after they finished this series against the A's, hopefully with a win, they got to go to L.A., Chavez Ravine, and go up against 2-time reigning National League champion Los Angeles Dodgers. It's always good to see the Yankees and the Dodgers going up against each other. I'll be very interested in watching the outcome of that. But I need to see some pitching from the New York Yankees. I need pitching. I need to see pitching. I don't need to see you giving up 6 runs like it's going out of style. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let me transition to some basketball talk for a second. Because you may not have ever heard about this next gentleman I'm about to discuss. After all, he played at Iowa State, if I remember correctly. He was drafted in the first round many years ago. I think it's like 2013, 2014, if I remember correctly. His name is Royce White. He's only played 3 games in the NBA. But apparently he's still trying to ball, and he knows a lot of basketball players. And he was caught on camera for some reason. Somebody put a camera in front of his face. And he had some things to say to the defense of a Carmelo Anthony who has not been in this league since being let go by the Houston Rockets just 10 games into the 2018-2019 season. So Carmelo Anthony was let go. He hasn't been picked up by a team since. He's been working out, working hard. Apparently, he has a strong desire. Not apparently, literally. I interviewed the man. He has a strong desire to end up back in the NBA. He's looking for his chance to go out the way that he wants to go out. He's willing to come off the bench, willing to play 15, 20 minutes a game. All of these things are true. But nobody seems to have picked him up. Apparently, folks out there are chirping. We don't know who it is, but we know that you got folks hesitant to take on Carmelo Anthony. I think Portland could use him. I think Philly could use him. I definitely think the LA Lakers could use him. But so far, there have been no takers. And as a result, it's raked a few people's nerves. Damian Lillard, months ago, spoke out on Melo's behalf, along with a plethora of other folks. That going on. And now you got this guy, Royce White, saying it. Although I will acknowledge, I don't think anybody has spoken on behalf of Melo quite like this man just did. Listen to what Royce White had to say on behalf of Carmelo Anthony.
Melo is absolutely being blackballed. He's one of the realest in it. He's one of those dudes that, you know, he ain't like me. He don't talk like brash and straightforward like that, but he has those morals and principles, you know. And he's given too much to the game for them not to allow him to play, or for them to, you know, kind of culturally just make a decision or an agreement that he's not good enough anymore. All of us here that play the game at the highest level know how good Melo is, and we know that there's no way that the Lakers would go out and sign Jared Dudley and not sign Carmelo Anthony. And another question is, while a guy like LeBron is walking around here like he's the face and voice of the players, how is he letting his banana boat brother hang out there in the wings and they go sign Jared Dudley and not Carmelo? If anybody watching this thinks that Jared Dudley can hold Carmelo's jockstrap, I'll slap him.
Damn. Talk about putting it where the goats can get it. As my man, the great one, the Black Eagle, Joe Madison, the Hall of Fame radio host, Joe Madison, said it. You're putting it where the goats can get it. That's what you're doing. By the way, Joe Madison, listen to him every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Urban View Radio, Sirius XM. I believe that's channel 126. Karen Hunter's on in the afternoon from 3 to 6, by the way. That's my sister right there. But that's neither here nor there. Here's the deal. I love what he had to say. Damn, I appreciate his candor. Makes valid points. I'm not going to go with the word blackballed, though. I'm not going to go that far, because it's not like he's considered a pariah by NBA teams. I know plenty of executives who speak very, very fondly of Carmelo Anthony as a person. They genuinely like him. He's trustworthy. He's somebody that keeps locker room stuff inside the locker room. He doesn't talk bad or down to or about anybody. He does work hard. He shows up at practice. He does what he's supposed to do. He tries to be a professional. All of these things are true. Here's what I'm going to tell you is what I personally believe. And I hope Royce White is listening somewhere. This is what I personally believe about Carmelo Anthony. Yes, he holds the ball. Yes, it's not an ISO game the way that it used to be, unless you're playing for Houston and James Harden, because he's the one that has that green light. You've got these analytics dudes looking at numbers and paying attention to some very, very relevant stats and some not so very relevant stats as well. He's outdated. His time is up. It's time to move in a different direction. And they build and structure teams a little bit differently. If you're Sam Presti, I have no doubt that you're not insulting or excoriating Carmelo Anthony in any way. But if you're talking about building a basketball team, I don't think he has a glowing report of Melo, because if that's the case, one could argue Melo would have remained in Oklahoma City. Don't tell me Mike D'Antoni has glowing. So when you look at it from that perspective, with all of that going on, you got to ask yourself, what the hell's going on? Here's what I believe. I believe there are plenty of people who do not want Melo in their top 9-man rotation. They look at his suspect defense, his proclivity towards playing ISO ball as opposed to moving and distributing the basketball. And they say, you know what? He doesn't work for us in a 9-man rotation. Royce White is absolutely right. You can't find 450 players better than Carmelo Anthony on this planet. You can't find 450 players that deserve to be on an NBA roster ahead of Carmelo Anthony. We all know that. We all get that. But here's where it gets tricky. Because you're a 10-time All-Star, a 6-time All-NBA player, a career 24-point-per-game scorer, somebody who's destined to go to the Hall of Fame someday because of your exploits collegiately as well as in Olympic competition. Although you've never been to an NBA Finals and you've only been to one conference finals when you were in Denver and Chauncey Billups was your point guard and you were playing for the Nuggets, the reality of the situation is that when you look at Carmelo Anthony, okay, you got executives that are going to look at him and say, you didn't win with him. And oh, by the way, we got this 9-man rotation. We don't believe he belongs in. He clearly belongs in roster spots 9 through. I think Carmelo Anthony is going to accept that. Do you really, really believe that Carmelo Anthony is going to accept playing that relegated role, coming off the bench, restricted to about 15 minutes a game, 20 max? Could he take that? That's what they're going to question. And I had one executive say to me, Stephen A., it's pretty hard for an executive to justify putting your head coach in a position where he has to look down at the bench and you got Carmelo Anthony sitting there, and you continue to bypass one person after another. I'm sorry, you continue to bypass him, one person after another after another. It's pretty hard to do that, Stephen A. How are we going to pull that off, Stephen A? That's what they're going to say. So it's not a matter of whether or not he's one of the top 450 players in the world. We know better than that. We know that he is. But the role that we would want him to play may not be in the 9-man rotation. So he'd be coming off the bench and playing on roster spots 10 through 15. And if he were to do that, could he accept that, Stephen A? We don't think he can. And on top of it all, it puts that coach in a very precarious spot because a potential future Hall of Famer is sitting on the bench and may not be able to handle that. And that puts the coach in a very, very difficult situation. That's their belief. Here's mine. Carmelo Anthony specifically said, no one's asked me to come off the bench. I'm willing to come off the bench. That's what Carmelo Anthony said. I am willing to come off the bench. So if he's willing to come off the bench, why not give him a shot? New York Knicks. Why not give him a shot? Brooklyn Nets. To a lesser degree, Brooklyn. Why not give him a shot? LeBron, Los Angeles Lakers. And by the way, Royce White, you saw how he wasn't hesitant to call out LeBron, his banana boat buddy. Look, I'm not going to say, let me be very clear about what I'm saying. LeBron James don't owe Carmelo this. He doesn't owe Carmelo fighting for Carmelo to be a Laker. But it would be nice if he did. He did open his mouth and speak on behalf of Melo because he felt Melo was being given a bad rap and completely disrespected. He knew how Melo departed from Houston, how Daryl Morey walked into a hotel room in San Antonio while Melo was preparing to play basketball that night and told him, your services are no longer needed. This is what Melo came on First Take and said. And Nuno, for my audience, if you can find that sound with Melo on First Take with me a few weeks back, one-on-one with yours truly, please find that sound for me. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. That's what Daryl Morey, according to Melo, said to Melo. And so if that's the backdrop, if that's the reality, if that's what we're dealing with here, well, then that should resonate with us all. It really, really should. Because if LeBron spoke up then, what's wrong with speaking up now? Clearly, the Los Angeles Lakers' priority is and should be a big man. With DeMarcus Cousins going down, a Kenneth Faried, a Dwight Howard certainly works. I think Dwight Howard because he's bigger, even though I like Kenneth Faried better. The bottom line is that You're the Lakers. You need a big. Outside of needing that big, you trying to tell me the Lakers can't use additional perimeter shooting? And I'm not saying Melo's been the greatest shooter in the world because we know that he hasn't been. But we also know he can find that stroke again. In 2 of the last couple of 4 or 5 games or so, he dropped 22 and 28 points in Houston before they let him go. He could do some things offensively. You're the Philadelphia 76ers. How thin your bench is. You don't need Melo. You the Portland Trailblazers, who, by the way, might. All I'm saying is that when you consider what he's done with the league and for the league, he don't deserve an opportunity out of the league 10 games in. And by the way, it's not an accident that it's 10 games in. For those of you that don't pay attention to analytics at all, let me explain something to you about the analytics boys. I'm told they analyze and compartmentalize games in 10-game increments. So 10 games in tells you a story. 20 games in tells you a story. 30 games, 40 games, 50 games in tells you a story. So it's not an accident that Carmelo Anthony was let. Daryl Morey being an analytics dude, that's what they usually do. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, trying to tell me that Carmelo deserves to go out like that? And oh, by the way, as a last, let's be mindful of something here. Very, very important. Okay? USA Basketball, Jerry Colangelo, who I revere, didn't want Carmelo on the team. Thought that if Carmelo Anthony I know what Carmelo Anthony's trying to do. Make a name for himself, blah, blah, blah. Recapture some of that glory. But he needs to do it through the NBA, not through USA Basketball. Kind of harsh, but fair at the same time. Here's the problem. Carmelo Anthony religiously supported USA Basketball throughout his career. Religiously supported them. That's point number 1. Point number 2, you got an abundance of stars who don't even want to play. Got guys leaving at the last minute like it's going out of style. Number 3. Just turned down, contributions ignored. One could make the argument that loyalty is short-lived in professional sports. It's a supply and demand business. We all know this. And those things are most prominent in this age of analytics. But that wasn't what they were saying to Melo when they needed him. These are all things to consider. Anthony, in my opinion, is better than 50% of the players in the league. Don't tell me that he can't make a contribution. Don't tell me that. Please don't tell me that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less, only at Walmart. I'll get back to your calls in just a minute. By the way, when it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need to. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2001. The very next year, they missed the playoffs, 9-7 in 2002. Since 2002, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots have made the playoffs every single year but 1 year, and their record has never been worse than 10-6, ever, since 2002. Yet he's made $55 million less than Eli Manning. Eli Manning's missed the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years, 7 of the last 9. In a process, he's collected $252.3 million, at least if you can talk about if he completes this season. And y'all want to talk about him? like he's played for free. The New York Giants have prioritized Eli Manning. They have not prioritized winning. Not in recent memory. I think a legitimate argument could be made. Do they care about winning as much as they care about Eli Manning? Problem. It ain't much. I'm telling y'all right now, this is a significant thing. It makes Odell Beckham Jr.'s point, as far as I'm concerned, a little bit more valid. Enough to at least ask yourself that question. I understand you got Zeitler. I understand you buffered your offensive line. Who benefits from that? That would happen to be Eli Manning. And I guess to a lesser degree, Saquon Barkley. But let's just call a spade a spade. Let's be real and honest with this stuff. Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't appear to be too far off. Because clearly winning wasn't their priority. And that's just the truth.
I wasn't willing to accept that role of coming off the bench in Houston because that never was relayed to me. It was, you are the piece that we need to get us over the hump, to win a championship. I went in there with that mentality. Yo, we need Melo to come in here to get us over this. I watched it. I watched the previous year. I saw where I could plug myself in that, and I really believed that we were going to do that. But when I get there, it was something totally different. The dialogue started getting less and less. There was no more conversations. It was just doing, and then I got to react to the things that's being done. Look on the board, your name is not on the board. Damn, why my name not on the board? All right, cool. I accept that. Let me move on. All right, you're not gonna start tonight. All right, cool. Man, you should have told me that. Like, let me feel it. I've never done this before. I've never come off the bench before. I've never done that, except for USA team. But that's something to tell you. You got the 12 best players in the world on one team. You telling me that you want me to come off the like communicate that with me.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
That voice that you was just listening to was an interview one-on-one between yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, and Carmelo Anthony, live on First Take about 3 weeks ago or so in L.A. studios. Carmelo Anthony wanted to sit down, do a one-on-one with me, and we spoke for about an hour. Touched on a lot of different things. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you missed any of my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast. Brought to you by the Capital One Quick Silver Card, earning unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere. Hey, what's in your wallet? Plus, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save pay an average of $699 less per year. To the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I see an abundance of things that people want to talk about on the lines, Carmelo Anthony being one of them. The residue from Jay-Z's agreement with the National Football League, which caused an uproar by quite a few people, namely Eric Reed of the NFL, Carolina Panthers, Kenny Stills of the Miami Dolphins, Carolina Panthers, along with a plethora of other folks speaking out against Jay-Z. Some even going so far as to question his blackness, while others, like Malcolm Jenkins for the Philadelphia Eagles and a few folks, have stood up for Jay-Z. So that subject is not going anywhere anytime soon either. So we'll stick around, talk about all of those things and then some. You're listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go to it. Joe, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up, Stephen A?
What's up? What's going on?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Carmelo Anthony thing. I think they need to give him a shot. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't hurt. Mm-hmm. He could come off the bench and he may be able to shine. That's how a lot of the six men do it. You know what I'm saying? Even though he may be 10th, he can still prove himself to be a MVP.
Well, listen, I think that the bottom line is this: to the victor goes the spoils, and we understand that. It takes a lot to build a team, different components to build a team. And, you don't have to always be the best player or even the second or third best player. We get all of that. But there's no justification for 450 guys to be wearing an NBA uniform. And at this stage and point in his career, after his contributions to the game, that Carmelo Anthony doesn't deserve to be on a roster. Now, he may not deserve some farewell tour, and he came on my show and emphasized he wants to play. So to me, I would think about. I just don't believe that this 450 players better than Carmelo Anthony. I do believe that you have several teams that have a very, very good, difficult time imagining that we're going to have Carmelo Anthony coming off of our bench, but he might not make the 9-man rotation. And as a result, this guy is going to be on a 10 to 15 slot, and he'll never accept that. I do believe you got folks that are hesitant, but just don't tell me he's not on a roster because 450 players are better than him. That's just utterly ridiculous. Let's go to Rob in the Bronx. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Rob?
What's going on, Stephen A?
Talk to me, man. Long time no speak. How you been, bro?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a while. Look, I believe with Melo don't have a job because of some of the things that Melo does. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a play, depending on the team, if you're looking for a veteran player that has leadership qualities, Melo's not your guy. If you're looking, defense wins games. Melo don't play no defense. Melo don't create shots for others by passing the ball. Melo looks to put up points, not to win. He put up points for himself. So Melo got to be held accountable for that. And I saw the interview on First Take. I believe Melo is still shell-shocked that he's no longer a superstar. And like I told you, Stephen A long time ago, if Melo wanted to rejuvenate his career, he should have thought about coming off the bench a long time ago. And when his own peers, the first year that they had that All-Star game with Captain Curry and Captain James, and his own peers didn't select him as an All-Star, that's when I knew Melo was in trouble.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I think that he was battling some things at that particular moment in time, so obviously his game had suffered because of it. And I definitely think that you have a point in terms of leadership, in terms of defense and what have you. But I also think that when you look at some of these rosters and you see some of the people on these rosters ahead of him, it is hard to fathom. It truly, truly is. And I think you have to look at it from that perspective. And the biggest point you make is coming off the bench earlier. Obviously, Allen Iverson didn't want to do that, and that cost him too. Where somebody like Vince Carter has no problem with it. That's why he's still in the league. The Atlanta Hawks just signed him to yet another contract. He's going to have 20-plus years in the National Basketball Association because not just a player, but the kind of person he is. Richard Jefferson survived longer than people thought he would survive. The athleticism didn't fade that much, but also, more importantly than that, he made contributions and was willing to accept a reserve role. So the league is littered with guys that are willing to accept certain roles, and I think you have a very, very valid point there.
Stephen A., what's going on with AB and the whole helmet situation? What's the reason why?
Well, listen. He wants to wear the helmet that he wants. To 40 different helmet options. AB ain't trying to hear it. He's fighting it, but he's the only person in the entire NFL league that's fighting it. He looks foolish with this whole matter. This has been nothing short of a fiasco, and it's been an embarrassment. And as far as I'm concerned, he should be ashamed of himself for making a spectacle out of this issue.
I mean, does the helmet have sentimental value to it? I mean,
it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is the National Football League says you're not certified to any longer wear that helmet because of safety reasons. You know, we're getting billion-dollar lawsuits from former players in regards to CTE and concussions and what have you. We're not dealing with that anymore. So we did extensive research. We paid a boatload of money to get the best technology available, and this is what they tell us are the safest helmets. What's the problem?
True.
All right.
True. Not to piggyback off of what Champ said the other day. Champ said when brothers wasn't taken, when NBA, I got one even better.
All right, go ahead real quick.
How about How about the brothers are the NFL? There'll be no NFL. Be like, well, look, if Colin is not padding up and suiting up, neither are we.
Yep, but
And
they would never do that because they ain't gonna let them. They talk, but they ain't gonna let. Be more strategic in your thinking, and understand that you ain't gonna. You're not going to get what you want without giving up something somebody else wants. That's the reality of the business world that we're living in, and people need to adopt that. Rob, appreciate you, man. I got to run. I got some bills to pay. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More of your calls in a minute with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, Miami Dolphins featured musical artist Jay-Z at practice. According to reports, the team's sound system played more than a half a dozen songs by the rapper at the start of practice on Tuesday, one day after receiver Kenny Stills objected to recent comments from Jay-Z about social activism by current and former NFL players, including Stills. According to the reports, it's unclear whether Coach Brian Flores was sending Stills a message. Stills was told before practice that the playlist would go heavy on Jay-Z. So talk about a statement. He's the one that's doing it, as opposed to the players themselves. But clearly, it's like 8 or 9 straight Jay-Z's. Hell of a message. Let's just be real about it, okay? You go on ESPN.com to find this out. Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross has stepped down from the NFL Social Justice Committee, the team announced Tuesday. Quote, Stephen made the decision last week and informed the NFL and members of the working committee that he was going to step aside. Is still fully committed to the work that has been done by the group and will always be a passionate supporter and tireless advocate for social justice causes, the fight for equal rights and education. The committee includes players and team owners and is intended to address social justice issues. Last season, members of the committee included Arizona Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell, Atlanta Falcons owner Arthur Blank, Washington Redskins cornerback Josh Norman. By the way, Brian Flores, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, ladies and gentlemen, he's from Brooklyn, New York. Jay-Z's from Brooklyn. We see where his loyalties lie. And I have no problem with it whatsoever. I'm going to leave it at that.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News is being brought to you live from above the Hannigan River deck at Pier 17, South Street, Seaport. Back to the phones we go. Kevin, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. Yeah, I've been on this Carmelo thing for about 3 weeks trying to get to you. The first thing, I agree, there's no way Carmelo shouldn't be on an NBA roster. Mm-hmm. That's ludicrous. Secondly, I want to ask your opinion. Patrick and Carmelo, how Patrick, the fans are upset he never delivered a championship and set with him for years, and then they began to love him. Do you think the same thing is going to happen with Melo? That Knick fans knock him, and then as years go by, they say, "Wow, Melo was a great Knick."
No, that's not going to happen. They know that Melo was a pretty damn great offensive player, but here's the difference: Patrick Ewing was a lifelong Knick, drafted, served all of his years here in New York, never wanted to leave before he was traded to the twilight of his career to Seattle, et cetera, et cetera. Melo was a guy that was in Denver, ultimately came to New York, didn't really want to leave until it was really, really time for him to leave. And that is exactly what happened. Patrick Ewing went to several conference semifinals, went to a few conference finals, went to one NBA finals, and lost to Houston. And Patrick Ewing and the Chicago Bulls kept running into Michael Jordan as well. In the case of Carmelo Anthony, I think that when you look at listen, they'll look back on him fondly because no matter how rough it was here, he was loyal and always wanted to be a New York Knick, no question. But the flip side to it is that he was the number 3 overall pick in the 2003 NBA draft. Number 1 was LeBron. Number 4 was Chris Bosh. Number 5 was Dwayne Wade. And all of them are champions. LeBron has been a 9 NBA with a Western Conference Finals one time. That is ultimately what the roadblock is. He's going to consistently be compared to LeBron. And obviously, there's no comparison.
That's legit, Stephen, and
All right.
I appreciate the call.
Thank you. Take it easy. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Hour number 2 up next. We'll get back to your phone calls and more. Talk a little NFL action. Antonio Brown.
The Stephen A. Smith.
Welcome. Television and radio airwaves of ESPN Radio. ESPN News number to call up as always. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show. Pennzoil Synthetics today. Plus, from the biggest concerts and games to the hottest theater shows and more, Vivid Seats has it all. Download the app and join the Vivid Seats Rewards Loyalty Program. Before I get back to the phones, just giving y'all a heads up about some stuff percolating in the NFL that's obviously on my mind. Of course, thank goodness, it's not the whole you don't get to get everything you want. And by the way, when you want to get paid and get somebody else's $30 million instead of your own, you don't get to take your figurative ball and run away. You got to stay there and deal with it. And Antonio Brown has plenty of options. Plenty of options. So he should be okay. And if he's not okay, that's his damn problem. Because there is no way around it. So let's just be clear. Point number 2. When I think about in the AFC, Raiders going to make a run for the playoffs. I don't believe it because of the division that they're in. Kansas City and the Los Angeles Chargers already make life hellacious for the Oakland Raiders. That's how I view it. I look at the AFC South. Indy, if Luck is healthy. Jacksonville, now that you got a quarterback in Nick Foles. Houston would take. That's neither here nor there. We'll see. AFC North, huge deal. Everybody been talking about the Browns. My point is, keep sleeping on the Steelers if you want to. You got Ben Roethlisberger. You've got a number 1 receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster. James Washington, I think, can ball. So is Vance McDonald, your tight end. I think, listen. Then, of course, there is the AFC. AFC East. It's all about New England there. Sorry if I'm not getting caught up in the Jets. I don't give a damn. And I think the Jets made the right selection by drafting him. But I got to tell you something. When I truly, truly think about Sam Darnold, what really, really comes to my mind is, what wideouts do you have available? Because just leaning on Le'Veon Bell ain't going to get it done. And by the way, let me say this. Him talking about how he wants to be hit, I think is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. In his history. What the hell are you doing inviting teammates to hit you in practice or any other time? The fact of the matter is, you got to be ready to play. And I love how football players walk around assuming they're going to be ready. Like one hit can't end their season. When we see the damn thing every week, somebody goes down for the year. But Le'Veon Bell is impervious to such things. So he has nothing to worry about, huh? Le'Veon Bell should be quiet and just show up It's just a wise position to take. 888-ESPN is 888-729-3776. In the NFC, they talk about Dallas. Obviously, they should be talking about Philadelphia as well. They'll talk about Green Bay because Aaron Rodgers is back, but really that's about Chicago. And we've got to really, really wonder. We got to really, really wonder where Minnesota and Detroit finish in that equation, especially Minnesota with a $28 million a year quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who's, by the way, all 3 years at $84 million is completely guaranteed. Completely guaranteed. And to a lesser degree, Matthew Stafford. At some point in time, you get $28 million to play the toughest position in football. Don't you need to win some regular season games so you can get to the playoffs? Should be. I mean, you should be. South. To me, it's about New Orleans and Atlanta. I'm not sold on Carolina until I see Cam Newton 100% healthy. And I'm damn sure not sold. Help. And then we look at the NFC West. That's LA and Seattle, too. San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo. My nickname for him is Porn Star Jimmy. I ain't apologizing for it. The man went out in Hollywood with a porn star, knowing paparazzis was out there watching. What the hell were you thinking? He knew exactly what he was thinking. He didn't care. He didn't mind being called Porn Star Jimmy. That's what happened. But that's just me. 888-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if I didn't mention Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, disgraceful performance by them the other day against Oakland. And by the way, what a disgraceful performance by Kyler Murray. Getting after him, putting some lead on him. He ain't going to last that way. And I don't blame him for it. I blame Steve Keim, who got rid of a coach after 1 year to hire this dude. And I blame the new head coach for the Arizona Cardinals because he ain't done a damn thing. Cliff Kingsbury. What has he done? He lost at Texas Tech. Didn't do anything to warrant a head coaching job in the NFL, only that he knew Kyler Murray because he recruited him. That's it. So good luck with that. Back to the phones we go. London, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
How's it going, Stephen A? I just wanted to shout out 2 points about Carmelo and the Jay-Z topic.
Go ahead.
And I appreciate the opportunity to be on the air. So with Carmelo Anthony, Rob made a good point about, his tenure and what he's done for the league and whatnot. And I do agree with you about him religiously supporting Team USA. I feel his position that he needs to be looking at in his later years now is potentially trying to be a shooting coach, some type of positional coach, for an NBA team or even Team USA for that matter, because he does have a great skill set and does have great game. But I feel when he transitioned to the Thunder and to
I don't know. There were so many. I don't know if you were there or not. There were interviews,
I was not.
Okay, well, whoever that was a reporter, they need to be fired because nobody in there asked the question, how is the social justice part of it that the NFL says that this was all about, right? I don't have a problem with Jay-Z doing business with the NFL. I could care less because they have a bigger problem with the young men that are retiring, going bankrupt within 5 years after they finish playing.
First of all,
a high percentage.
So first stop. The reality of the situation. Let me give you a harsh reality about something. It's not the NFL's problem if players go broke. If they paid you and you if your job pays you, this is America. You have the freedom to do with your money what you want outside of breaking laws. You have the freedom to do what you want to do. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't save, if you don't invest, if you don't engage with prudence with your money, that's your problem.
I understand that, but you have a whole society of people that are coming up that don't have anything that are coming up.
That is not my point. My point is that's not their problem. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do something to help. I'm not saying that we should be insensitive to that. That's not what I'm saying, Tim. What I'm saying is that's not their problem. That's different than it being your problem. If something, God forbid, as hard as I work and what I do to try to make this network successful, I mean, God forbid that something happens to me, I'm irresponsible with my money or whatever the case may be, and I'm out in the streets, you'd like to believe that somebody would extend a helping hand for me, including somebody at ESPN. No one would have the obligation to do so if I'm the one who blew my money.
What does a halftime show got to do with social justice?
We don't know.
That was never explained in the interview.
They never explained it. They never explained it, which is what my problem is. Have a problem with their lack of an explanation. Have a problem with the fact that they were not as transparent with exactly what they were going to do. But to sit up there and have people questioning this man's blackness, calling him a sellout and stuff like that for stuff they don't even know is wrong, particularly when you consider his history of being sensitive enough to issues that affect our community. It ain't right.
Anything about him doing business? I didn't
say you said that. I didn't say you said that. I said that's what they were saying about him after the press conference.
Justice.
Have a nice day, Tim. Have a nice day. See, Tim want to talk, but Tim don't want to listen. You want to call up to the Stephen A. Smith Show and talk, but you don't want to listen. So you have to go. Mike, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Yeah, boss. I was wondering, with Carmelo, you think he would go to like a lower tier team like the Pelicans?
I think if Carmelo Anthony would come back to the Knicks, which he would if they offered, where wouldn't he go? I mean, how much lower does it get than the Knicks?
Right.
They were 17-65 this year. Why wouldn't he go? Yeah. I mean, he won't. Listen, David Griffin won't invite him to the Pelicans. I can tell you that much. They don't need Carmelo with what they have going on in New Orleans. But there's plenty of other teams that can utilize the services.
Yeah.
All right?
All right. And then I want to ask you about the whole Jay-Z thing.
Go ahead.
I think, I listen to you, bro. And I think it's with the NFL, it's always, they want to make a big show. Well, why not make a big show with the social injustice going on with Jay-Z?
Well, first of all, I agree with that. But secondly, we don't know. We know that the press conference left a lot to be desired. That's all we know. That's all we know. And who's to say that Jay-Z didn't have something to do with that? Because Jay-Z ain't about that kind of spotlight. Jay-Z's spotlight is on stage. Jay-Z don't actually like being front and center speaking about things more than he likes performing and utilizing the cachet that comes from performing to address certain issues. Now, he's definitely a strategist and he's definitely a capitalist. No apologies there. That left a lot to be desired because no one liked seeing him sitting next to Roger Goodell just laughing and yucking it up. So he should have been more transparent and more forthcoming with information as to exactly what their agenda was and how they were going to go about executing it. That is totally fair. But what is unfair is to people to draw the conclusion that they know that whatever Jay-Z is going to do is not going to be good for the black community and that he has sold folks out. That is wrong. He does not deserve that, which is what people were saying about him after that press conference. That's pretty jacked up. It really is. That's a real low blow to aim in his direction.
Let me ask you this, though. When's the last time the NFL had a performer like Jay-Z on the stage?
I don't know. I listen. You could say I had no problem with Beyonce and Bruno Mars, none whatsoever. I think Bruno Mars is sensational, and I also think and we ain't gonna say nothing negative about the Queen Bee, are we? We ain't gonna do that, are we?
Oh no.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that I got news for you. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Are you ready for this, Mike? Are you ready for what I'm about to tell you?
No. Let me ask you this.
I would rather see Beyonce than Jay-Z any day. And I love Jay-Z. No disrespect, but I'd rather see the wife. Wouldn't you?
When they went to Atlanta, who they put on stage?
When they went to Atlanta? I don't know.
Halftime show.
I don't remember. Who?
You don't remember because it wasn't significant.
So what's your point?
My point is put them on stage in their community.
Oh, my God. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? You don't know what they're going to do yet. That's the point of my argument. And oh, by the way, I've been to every All-Star game in the NBA with the exception of one in the last 20 years. And I don't remember who they had on stage. And I was there for the performances because I don't care. Yeah. I don't mind that you care. I don't mind that Nuno cares or anybody else, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm busy working.
Okay, but Jay-Z's, the whole thing with Jay-Z is, why ain't Jay-Z on stage at the halftime
That is not true. That was not what it was all about. The issue is that Jay-Z had a press conference with the commissioner of the National Football League to address their collaboration in addressing social justice issues. And a lot of people out there do not believe they told us nearly enough about what's going on, what the agenda is, and how you're going to go about executing it to the benefit of a disenfranchised community. That's the issue, not whether or not he's performing himself at halftime.
Well, I'm not talking about Jay-Z. I'm talking about any other artist in the area.
Goodbye, man. Goodbye. I'm not having this unintelligent conversation. That's an unintelligent conversation. I'm just going to say it what it is. That's an unintelligent conversation. And I'm not saying you're not welcome to call back, Tim, because you're welcome to call back. But you ain't going to talk to me about this because your argument is nonsensical. We're talking about social justice issues, and you talking about a halftime act. That's not the point. Andre, go ahead. Andre, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead. You're live on the air. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
First time caller.
Thank you.
I just had to, chime in on the whole Jay-Z thing. My only problem with the Jay-Z collaboration with the NFL is where was he at prior to this?
Where he was at prior to this was speaking out on behalf of Colin Kaepernick, along with his wife and many, many other artists, not just for Rock Nation, but beyond, because they felt that Colin Kaepernick was getting a very, very, very raw deal. He was very outspoken in his support of Colin Kaepernick.
Now, once again, just like you said, we should wait for the action and wait and see what they're going to do.
Sure.
My question is you were speaking out in support of, but what actions did you take at that time? Was he in the background doing anything, making any kind of move?
I don't know the answer to that question. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is, let me ask you this question. If you were in Jay-Z's position, what action do you think he should have taken at the time of Colin Kaepernick protesting? What action do you think he should have taken?
It's not necessarily at the time of the protest. I mean, at any time.
Well, that's what you just asked me. You just got on the air and asked me that question. Well, what did he do at the time of it?
No,
and now you telling me what?
Not just at the time of the Colin Kaepernick situation. What's been going on with our people has been going on for hundreds of years.
Okay.
So we've always been oppressed. What I'm saying is, was he already out in society, in the public?
My man, you know what, Andre, stop it. Stop it. What are people supposed to do? You speak out against issues when they prop up. You recognize the fact that we're from disenfranchised communities, that we're constantly behind the eight ball, that we've got to do twice as much to get half as much, that it's incredibly unfair, unequal, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are things that we make noise about every single day. From me to people in lesser positions than me, to people in higher positions than me, like him and others. The list goes on and on. We've all throughout history. We've had people speaking about these issues, and you continue to fight the fight. But what specifically are you saying or are you suggesting needs to be done that would definitively eradicate the problems that you just highlighted?
What I'm asking is it just seems to me like he didn't show up till there was a paycheck. I didn't hear nothing about Jay-Z, supporting the players or wanting to work with the NFL. He could have did that without the paycheck.
Well, excuse me. What's wrong with getting a paycheck and still using a strong arm in the NFL to implement and initiate change? They do it all the time. They do it all the time. Folks do it all the time in the world of business. You take a particular issue, okay, you might address it with the sincerity that it deserves, but if there's money to be made from it, you don't mind taking it. Everybody else does it.
Respond now. Because my thing is I agree with what you're saying. Everybody does, which is true. But we're talking about Jay-Z, and in our community, as being a black man, Jay-Z is looked at as being a capitalist. He's looked at as being a moneymaker, right? So now if you're coming out saying, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z with the NFL to help support social change and to make an influence on my community, then why does there have to be a paycheck tied to it?
Why I'm saying to you, why not? That's my point. Are you doing anything for free?
Can I finish though?
No, you can't finish. You answer my question. What's the name of this show? Whose show did you dial into? You answer my question. I asked you, are you doing anything for free? And I'm not trying to sit up there and say you're not, like nobody. I mean, I do things for free. I'm sure Jay-Z does something for free. I'm sure you do something for free in regards to certain things. But if you're working in concert with a multi-billion-dollar entity like the NFL, who you know without question is going to find a way to make its money, what's wrong with him finding a way to make his?
My problem is the perception that it puts out to our people, that it's just like you said, people calling the Uncle Tom and all that.
What perception? What perception? They had a press conference, bro, and we don't know what they're going to do. He didn't even do anything yet, and y'all are engaging in condemning him. He didn't do anything yet.
Once again, can I finish what I was going to say? You cut me off before I could finish what I was saying.
Because you want to talk like it's your show, and I already gave you enough minutes to talk, but go ahead.
The perception from our people, from the hoods, from the younger cats in the hoods, when they read up on all this, all we read about was the contract that Rock Nation got with the NFL. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't see what you're saying. Because guess what? Brother, you ain't the only one from the hood. You calling a dude from the hood. What you talking about? Brothers that work in this industry that cover the world of sports and beyond is from the hood. This notion that if you from the hood, okay, you must be broke. You definitely gonna stay broke. You can't rise from the ashes. Jay-Z a damn billionaire from Marcy Projects. Stephen A ain't doing too bad. I'm from Hollis, Queens. I got brothers all over this industry, in the media and beyond. Lawyers, doctors, police officers, FBI, DEA, accountants. The list goes on and on. They from the streets. So when you say, oh, it's the hood, our brothers from the hood, younger cats from the hood, who you think they listening to? I understand that newspapers are important. I understand that radio waves are important. But guess what? You talking to a brother that reach over 50 million people a week. I'm from the hood. What you talking about? Man, goodbye. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The hell y'all think y'all talking to? I mean, it's getting ridiculous. Jay-Z and his partnership with the NFL warrants all of everybody saying, okay, let's see what you do. He warrants the same thing that I'm accustomed to. Stephen A., don't let us down. Stephen A., make sure you do this. Stephen A., make sure you say that. Come on, Stephen A., make sure you address it. That's fair. That's totally fair. What is not fair is to sit up there and talk about him like he done sold out just because you're suspicious about the press conference that you saw. And all his work and all the things that he's done and the music that he's made and the issues that he's been willing to tackle and the conscientious observer that he has been in his brilliancy as an artist. One of the greatest ever. We spent decades being proud of this brother coming from the hood and rising to get to this point to do what he's done. And one damn press conference makes you turn against him. And you gonna bring up the hood? Hood don't roll like that. Let me be very, very clear to y'all in America. Hood rats, brothers from the hood. Our loyalty foundation is usually stronger than that. You know, go to break before I curse somebody out. Nature Valley sweet and salty bars are Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2001. The very next year, they missed the playoffs, 9-7 in 2002. Since 2002, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots have made the playoffs every single year but 1 year, and their record has never been worse than 10-6, ever, since 2002. Yet he's made $55 million less than Eli Manning. Eli Manning's missed the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years, 7 of the last 9. In a process, he's collected $252.3 million, at least if you can talk about if he completes this season. And y'all want to talk about him like he's played for free. The New York Giants have prioritized Eli Manning. They have not prioritized winning, not in recent memory. I think a legitimate argument could be made. Do they care about winning as much as they care about Eli Manning? Because guess what? What if Daniel Jones continues to shine? It ain't much to look better than how Eli Manning has looked over the last 2 years. So if that's the case and that's the reality, what's the problem? It ain't much. I'm telling y'all right now, this is a significant thing. It makes Odell Beckham Jr.'s point, as far as I'm concerned, a little bit more valid. Enough to at least ask yourself that question. I understand you got Zeitler. I understand you buffered your offensive line. Who benefits from that? That would happen to be Eli Manning. And I guess to a lesser degree, Saquon Barkley. But let's just call a spade a spade. Let's be real and honest with this stuff. Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't appear to be too far off. Because clearly winning wasn't their priority. And that's just the truth.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
By the way, when it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need to get to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why more than 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed. Also, do you have frequent heartburn? I'll hold off on that. Just a question I want to throw your way. Let's get back to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to Dave. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Dave? How are you? Dave.
Hey. Yes.
Go ahead. You're live on the air.
Hey, I love your show, Boo. I tell you what, I think you're really right on the ball.
Thank you, sir.
And regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers,
yes.
I'm just like you. Everybody's taking the Browns. It's the chic thing to do. But the Steelers don't rebuild, they reload. In regards to Le'Veon Bell, great running back, but he went to the Jets. Pittsburgh has a great offensive line. They have Ben Roethlisberger. They had A.B. Brown. So, of course, he's going to get his yardage.
Well,
in regards to A.B. Brown, he had Le'Veon Bell, and he had
Listen, here's the bottom line. Antonio Brown is gone. Le'Veon Bell is gone. Juju Smith-Schuster is there. Vance McDonald is still there. You look at James Washington. He's got potential. Connor is still there. Look, James Conner is still there. The offensive line is still there. Big Ben is still there. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are still going to win the AFC North. That's my position. Appreciate your call, Dave, though. Thank you so much. Let's go to Nazir. You're live with Stephen A. What's up? Go ahead, bro.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? I said, I mean,
okay, I like SA. I like SA. SA works. Go ahead, man.
Hey, man, I love your show, man. I appreciate your views.
Thanks a lot, man.
One thing I wanted to mention about Carmelo, I do agree with you, especially your point about the Sixers, man. Because when I think about it, they talking about sitting in B for 20 games, man. I think he'll fit right in. Mm-hmm. But when he came to the interview, it was a couple of things that kind of stood out to me. You know, I could be wrong, but it was just my opinion. You know, when he had mentioned that the general manager was coming to talk to him, and he was thinking about going to the general manager himself. You know, like, What can I do? I mean, they kind of made me think, like, he knew it was some kind of problem in the air, possibly some tension, some bad vibes or something.
Well, the minutes were sporadic and what have you. That's what he was worried about most. Well, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and then, it made me wonder, like, okay, well, why would he go to the general manager instead of the coach?
Because Daryl Morey, it's a different system. Daryl Morey is analytics driven, and Mike D'Antoni does what Daryl Morey tells him to do. They've got a formula, and that's why he hired Mike D'Antoni for this job. Bunch of analytics dude. Daryl Morey is famous for that stuff, and D'Antoni's going to follow Daryl Morey's plan. So everybody knows that Morey's the man to go to in situations like that involving the Rockets.
Okay, I got it. And another thing, I was really wondering if the coach really had something to do with it, especially when the players, they didn't know anything about it.
He said no. Because, he said no. He said D'Antoni didn't have anything to do with it.
I mean, that was his opinion. He didn't think that he did.
Right.
I mean, I know he probably doesn't know for sure. But when you mention that the players didn't know anything about it, usually the front office, they'll go to their top players like, listen, we're thinking about this. What do you think? And if they didn't approach the players.
Well, I know Chris Paul didn't know anything about it. I spoke to Chris Paul directly. And not only that, Melo had Chris Paul in his hotel room that night. He said because him and Chris Paul are boys, and if Chris Paul knew anything about it, that could potentially affect their friendship. So he was very, very serious like that. And Chris Paul looked him dead in the eye, and they were together for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And Chris Paul swore to him he didn't know a damn thing, and I believe him. In the case of James Harden, Melo said he's got to take it at his word. He didn't think James Harden knew. James Harden said he didn't know. But do they know for sure? No, because everybody believes that there's no way on earth that Daryl Morey would make a move like that and not inform James Harden. But then again, if you're James Harden and you want to be smart about things, you kind of keep yourself out of those situations, specifically so you can't get blamed for ingratiating yourself and stuff like this. So I think that's definitely possible. But I got to go, Nazir. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Charlie, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Most respect, Stephen A. Love the show.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say 2 quick things about the Jay-Z and NFL topic.
Okay, go ahead real quick.
I think when Jay-Z said in the press conference that we're past kneeling, it rubbed people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you still have people, kneeling and protesting on behalf of Cap. So for him to say we, I think the culture took it as he was speaking for all of us. Second, when the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, Jermaine Dupri, he was offered the same NFL deal Jay-Z got.
Are you sure about
Jay-Z
that?
Was
Are you sure that Jermaine Dupri was offered a partnership with the NFL?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Same deal. Same deal Jay-Z has now. And Jay-Z was the first to call him and say, don't do the deal. Same deal.
Okay.
And Jay-Z has been in talks with the NFL within a year since.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to have more information on that because sooner than later, I will speak to Jay-Z directly about this. I'm going to ask him about that Jermaine Dupri thing you just said. But go ahead. What's your last word?
Because I think the people don't know this.
Okay.
And I want to put it out there.
I got it. You just did. Consider it done. What's your last point? Because I got to go.
That's it, sir.
All right, man.
Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good day. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls to close out the show in a minute. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have antacids stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. That's Prilosec OTC. Just 1 pill a day will last The Miami Dolphins featured musical artist Jay-Z at practice. According to reports, the team's sound system played more than a half a dozen songs by the rapper at the start of practice on Tuesday, one day after receiver Kenny Stills objected to recent comments from Jay-Z about social activism by current and former NFL players, including Stills. According to the reports, it's unclear whether coach Brian Flores was sending Stills a message, but the Dolphins confirm that Flores picks the songs for practice and also confirms that Stills was told before practice that the playlist would go heavy on Jay-Z. So talk about a statement. Talk about a statement, even though, again, it's Coach Brian Flores playing it. He's the one that's doing it, as opposed to the players themselves. But clearly, it's like 8 or 9 straight Jay-Z songs. You know that's a message. Let's just call it what it is. Let's not act like we don't know. We know that's a hell of a message. Let's just be real about it, okay? Let's not even pretend. And then in the latest news, you go on ESPN.com to find this out. Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross has stepped down from the NFL Social Justice Committee, the team announced Tuesday. Quote, Stephen made the decision last week and informed the NFL and members of the working committee that he was going to step aside from the group and continue to focus his efforts on Rise. He believes in and is still fully committed to the work that has been done by the group and will always be a passionate supporter and tireless advocate for social justice causes, the fight for equal rights and education. The committee includes players and team owners and is intended to address social justice issues. Last season, members of the committee included Arizona Cardinals owner Michael Bidwell, Atlanta Falcons owner Arthur Blank, Washington Redskins cornerback Josh Norman. By the way, Brian Flores, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, ladies and gentlemen, he's from Brooklyn, New York. Jay-Z's from Brooklyn. We see where his loyalties lie. And I have no problem with it whatsoever. Keep our eyes on a lot of things. It's going to be a really, really interesting NFL season. I'm going to leave it at that.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Quote, buy and save on home insurance with Progressive's new Home Quote Explorer, only at Progressive.com. Also, if you missed any of today's show, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by the Capital One Quicksilver Card, earning unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere. Hey, what's in your wallet? Article on The Root Jermaine Dupree breaks silence, says Jay-Z actually never told him to turn down his NFL deal. Okay? So what really, really happened? According to Jermaine Dupree, talking to my man Big Tigger yesterday on Atlanta's V103, Jermaine Dupree said he and I, meaning Jay-Z and I, never had a conversation where he told me, don't do what you're doing. What our conversation was, you know what side I'm on. I understand what you're doing. That's what the conversation was, Dupree confirmed. As Complex noted, the Dupree NFL deal in question involved, quote, a series of free shows held in Atlanta Centennial Olympic Park in the days before Super Bowl 53. Not necessarily the kind of partnership that Jay-Z's are talking about. So that caller, I'm sorry, you got that wrong. Let's go to Joey real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Joey, go.
Hey, Stephen A., thanks for having me. Big fan of the show, especially when that clown boy fan Will Kane isn't hosting.
Be respectful and just make your point. Stop it. Go ahead and make your point.
I got you. So the question I have, what is the most realistic expectation for Jadeveon Clowney's situation, and what is the most ideal? I wanted to hear your take
I don't know
on
what the expectation is. I don't think he's going to end up in Houston because Bill O'Brien is running the show. Clearly, he's playing hardball, and Clowney, who's had 9.5 sacks last season, and obviously isn't J.J. Watt, but pretty damn important. They're looking to move him because apparently they can't reach an agreement on. So my expectation is that he'll either come to his senses and stay in Houston, or he's going to get shipped someplace he doesn't want to be shipped to. Thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate you. Muhammad, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Only got a minute. Go.
Yes. I'm a former L.A. Black Panther from the 1960s. My biggest problem with Jay-Z is that he's not standing up for Kaepernick and trying to get his job back, even though Jay-Z has got all this money on the table now and got his opportunity. And there's so many black men and women that lost their life and went to the penitentiary fighting for social justice.
Stop right there. Muhammad, stop right there. Let me stop you. First of all, I want to encourage you to call back when I have more time to give you. That's number one, because this is not enough time. But number two, I want to ask you this. Colin Kaepernick had an opportunity in Miami. He wore Fidel Castro's T-shirt, a T-shirt supporting Fidel Castro, with a Cuban population of over 30% of Miami. He had an opportunity to be in Baltimore, but his girlfriend tweeted something about comparing Ray Lewis and owner Steve Bisciotti to Samuel L. Jackson and Leonardo DiCaprio's characters in Django. One was a slave owner, one was obviously a sellout. Then you had an opportunity in Denver, but he didn't want to tell John Elway that he wouldn't kneel any longer. And I don't know what situation happened in Seattle, but Pete Carroll was saying he's a starter, he's not a reserve, so it's not the ideal spot. I think people need to consider that when they say, why are we not helping Colin Kaepernick had a job, when there are at least 4 occasions since he's knelt where he had an opportunity to have a job. It's something that we can discuss in the days to come without question. But now's not the time because we don't have any time. I'll holler at y'all in 22 hours until then.
These days, we all feel a little